I am here with Kirby Hann, who has worked with big names in the consumer packaged goods industry, including Smuckers and Post. And now she is certified in Five Voices Leadership Development, which we're going to get to. So thank you, Kirby, for being here. I'm so excited because there was something you told me in a previous conversation about having so many things that you know now that you wish you knew in college or right after. So we're going to get to all of that. But first, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited to kind of like share a little bit more, talk about these things. I'm hopeful that anything I share today can be helpful to younger, people just getting out into the workforce and like help them feel confident as they move forward on their journey too. So excited to be here.
Perfect. Well, let's start what I'm considering the beginning. What was your college major, and then what was your first job out of college?
So my college major, so I actually started in, which was fun. It was interior design. And then I realized, oh, this is not going to probably be for me. And I really loved the business, the marketing aspect of things. So I had switched over to managerial marketing during my first year of school and just really loved it. Loved the fact that they had real life like cases we would do, kind of business cases. We definitely got a good feel for the different types of marketing areas that you can kind of get into, like whether it be more the business management side or even the more marketing services side of things. So that was my degree, was marketing management. And then I went on to like right out of college, started looking around, and I was very lucky to get a job with the JM Smucker company, which luckily is right in my back door. So it's literally 10 minutes away from where I grew up. And I was really fortunate to get a job there. And for my first job though, wasn't marketing. It was more in a logistics coordinator background. But again, at that time, I was like, yep, foot in the door. I had a couple internships, but any way to get your foot in the door at a good company, you have to do what you do.
Yeah, and Smuckers is such like a well-known name. I'm sure that was super exciting to get such a cool first, logo on your resume. So
Yeah.
that in itself is a big accomplishment. I'm curious, how did you get that role? I know it was close to you, but you can't just like walk in and say, "Hire me, I'm your neighbor." How did you get it?
Yeah. I honestly, I lucked out where I did have the ability just to share my background. I had a strong like marketing background and it was a very entry level job. So it wasn't, where if you're in marketing and then you're stepping right into like a job today where it was kind of just getting my foot in the door type of thing. I do think though, like I was lucky enough that maybe I was within the area. They took a chance on me to like interview me. But again, it's one of those things, having a strong resume, cover letter, being able to just show up well in the interview too. So and I didn't even know, I had like 6 interviews that day where they didn't even tell me that I was going to be interviewing that many different people. But again, just how you can present yourself well, really show what you know, you're excited about the opportunity, just putting your best foot forward. I think really helped me. And I was just thankful that I even got my foot in the door because at that time it's just very much like, hey, you get into Smuckers and they take care of you. So, and my family was so excited too. They're like, I can't believe you're working at Smuckers, just because it was in like our back door and we
Yeah.
just knew it so well.
You said did you had 6 different interviews in one day, or 6 people from the Smuckers company talked to you that day?
6 interviews that day with 6 different people.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
yeah,
That's a lot. So you had a lot going on that day, but you showed up full steam ahead on all of them and got the job.
yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
you are working at Smuckers. It's your first job out of college. What was the biggest surprise about entering the workforce for you?
What's interesting is you get a really nice background when you're in college of like, again, the business management side, the marketing services side. You get to see all the different aspects of marketing.
Mhm.
And when you first get in, you realize like you are having specific things that you are doing for that specific job.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit like, you're not always going to get to do the most glamorous parts of the job, but how like when parents say like, oh, like they have those memes where parents think I do this, but this is actually what I do. But honestly, that is, I mean, even talking about the logistics background of things, there's so many things that I learned within that job that actually helped me in other jobs within the marketing space. So again, it's just taking those experiences and learning from it. But I will say that it's just, again, you learn so much on the actual job and like what you're doing. And it's so valuable, those experiences that you have. So again, it's just you're trying to like navigate a brand new space that you haven't been before coming right out of college and not really like, honestly, I don't think I had a ton of expectations, but there was this trying to figure things out at the beginning and not just kind of just going. I just wish I would have just let myself kind of go with the flow a little bit more and just take that time to learn.
Yeah. It's so much information coming at you. You're just trying to like swim and keep up, but you're learning at the same time. You kind of don't realize that
Yeah.
until you reflect back. So I kind of alluded to it when I was introducing you, but something that you said that really stuck with me the last time we spoke is gosh, there's so many things that I know now that I didn't know then. So, what's something that you would want to tell, a recent college graduate that you know now that would be helpful to them?
There's a few different things that I think kind of just jump out in my mind. So, you know, again, when you first start, you feel this like overwhelming like a little bit of imposter syndrome, right? You're getting there on the job, you're just feeling like, oh, am I really set up for success? Like, do I know all the things I need to do, like know to do the job? And it's very common for women to kind of find themselves in that spot too. But one of those things that you can just kind of remember is everybody had a first day. Everybody didn't know everything that they were going to be doing right off the bat. So it's okay just to be present, be there, learn as much as what you can, build relationships with people, get to know others within the space will only make you more comfortable and just take that time to actually learn the pieces of the job and do them actually really well. I think for me personally, as I reflect back on myself, I think I saw the corporate ladder and I really honed in on, okay, I see this person doing this thing. I need to start doing those things. And I was just so focused on the future of what I needed to do that I didn't just take the time to say, let me absorb this role. Let me be present in what I'm learning today and lead from where I am today within this role versus trying to look at the future and what other people were doing. I mean, in business, there's not a straight path. So even though somebody might have this experience over here, that doesn't mean that's going to be your path to go down. And so you just have to have grace with yourself to realize that everybody has their own unique path that they go through.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, trying not to compare yourself to others, really just kind of go at your own pace and your own path. And I think that kind of lends itself really well to my next question is a lot of the time women specifically in their 20s feel like they need to have it all together, right? You need to have the job, you need to have the partner, the family, the money or whatever it may be to them. They think they have to have everything all at once. To me, I don't find that to be the truth. I think your 20s is more about exploring, but what would you say to someone who feels like kind of behind or lost in that period of their life?
Yeah, I think I agree, especially with social media and everything out there today, right? We're always comparing ourselves to everybody to see hey, what are my friends doing? What are other peers like me doing at this point in time? And do I feel like I'm doing or about the same? Like, am I on par with what I should be doing at this age? And I think as we're getting older, we realize, and as generations keep going and as we see things expanding, we're like realizing like, there isn't only one path of like what looks like success. There's no checklist of what makes you successful at any point of stage in your life. I mean, I'm almost 40 and I still feel like can feel like, oh man, am I doing the right things? You're always having these check-in points with yourself, even when you're 40, because you're always going to be doing new things. Because if you're not always doing new things, that means you're not learning, you're not growing. So you always have to be challenging yourself to do things differently, to take on new experiences. So it's never like, hey, I'm at my 20s. I should be doing all the family things. I should have had certain experiences. And then I've done all those things and now I can kind of move on. It doesn't really happen linear like that. And it's all about the right timing for you and where you are at with your life. And I also think too, again, as you stay true to kind of like what is your North Star of like where you want to be, what you want to do, and your values, that's what should be guiding you, not what you're seeing your friends do, not what the media is telling us is like the right way to do things, because there is no right way. You have your own unique experience, your own background, your own beliefs, and that's how you kind of have to live your life, is through those things, and just go with the flow with it.
Yeah. Well, that's probably a good place for us to take a look at your career trajectory. So you were at Smucker
Yeah.
Company. Where did you go and where are you now? Kind of fill us in.
Yeah. So again, I think kind of going back to the thinking about the career lattice versus the career ladder.
Ooh, I like that.
Like, as again, yeah, it's something, it was like one of these fun terms we used to talk about when I was part of this women's group too. So, again, going on that certain path where you think of like, this is what the path looks like. I mean, I started again where I started in logistics. And then I was there for 2 years, learned a lot of valuable things. And then I went into like a more marketing business focused role where I was working on the brands and analyzing, learning the businesses, and being more of, I would call like a business manager, but you were like a central hub for like all the different things that happened around a business to know the impacts, what's the strategy and stuff like that. So I was in a brand where, or role where I worked on brands like Jif and Smuckers, and that's what I would do. But you would also you did get to do some of those fun things like marketing campaigns, and you got to be involved in the marketing planning process, but you had to know your business. And then I moved on where I was like, wow, marketing services is kind of an interesting area. Like, I feel like if you're going to be a um, marketing leader, you have to have experience in marketing services too, just to understand the space and know what's important in that space based on where you want to go with your career journey. So I did take a lateral move, and I moved over into a marketing services background with, at the time, was called shopper marketing. Now it's changed based on, the evolution of things to omni-channel marketing and things like that, where we did so many evolutions of like, based on where the consumer's at, what they need, how to like really make sure you're focusing on the most important things to meet them where they're at. We kept evolving the structure of our department to fit that need. So I did a lot of smaller iterations. Like, at one time I was like on a team for shopper marketing, and then I moved on to like, it was called a consumer experience pod. So I was there for a good amount of time. I then moved into more of a commercial centric role that was really in the middle between our sales teams and our brand marketing teams, to kind of build joint business strategies and planning to bring what's happening at the retailer and what's happening at the brand, and meet and brand objectives, and meet those two things together. Because the retailers like a Walmart, a Sam's, like they have different timelines, they have different priorities,
Sure.
they have different objectives, and we have to kind of meet somewhere in the middle to kind of pull all those things together. So then I moved into one of those brands, and I also got to focus on a new category, which is great, with pet food, which was all new learning,
Oh
great
yeah.
new learning experience. So again, I took a lot of these lateral roles where I was learning about different areas of the business.
Hmm.
And they do say, like, as you move up in your career, it is harder to move over to other different disciplines, because you're at a higher point. It's hard to like just translate that knowledge over. So the more you can learn at like an entry level, the better, because that's just going to make you stronger
I
in
like
like the long run. And it just gives you this great experience to know how all those things work, because at some point, if you are higher up, they want to know that you know these areas well, because you could be leading one of those teams one day. You never know. If you're at a vice president level, you could be managing a team like that one
that. Yeah,
day.
super good point.
So yeah, so I really loved I got to see different parts of the business. So it was really great. Well, then we had an announcement like a couple years ago where they decided to sell off part of our business, like the pet food business, to a different company. I had never experienced anything like that. I had been with Smuckers for about 15 years, like my entire career. And at first I felt like, wow, I mean, I don't even know what to think about this.
Oh
I've
boy.
never been anywhere else. My whole career has been here, all my connections where I've established, like where I grew up. I feel like I kind of grew up in this space.
Yeah.
And so that was a little scary at first, because it was new, it was different. I didn't know how to navigate that. I really liked the area I lived in. So that was a little like nerve wracking. So with that, I went over to a company called Post Consumer Brands, which have the cereal brand foods. and they basically acquired our pet food business. And so we had to stand up a whole new business unit with that. And I will tell you, even though there are things that feel scary, unknown in your career, those are the things you learn the most from.
Love
You
that.
grow and learn the most from. I will say, even though, it was very nervous, like I was very nervous, nerve wracking at the time. And it was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable. I'm not going to say it wasn't. It was uncomfortable. But looking back on it, I was like, wow, those experience I got to do, the things I got to do within that role that were like different and maybe a little bit outside the box, I will never take that for granted. And I understood also how to like work with people differently. You know, going through that phase, people were going through a lot of like changes in just how they felt internally because they're like, wow, am I going to have a job? Like, what's going to happen? I'm getting moved to a new company. You have to find a new way just to like communicate and collaborate with people to move things forward when everybody's navigating a lot of change within themselves.
Mhm.
So with that, I stayed at that company, and then now I'm at Del Monte Foods, which is another consumer packaged goods brand. So again, I've worked at a couple of different companies here with all different types of business strategies, which is really unique. Growing up at Smuckers, I felt like, okay, all business strategies kind of look like that. And then now I've gone to two other different companies. You're like, no, there's actually very, like, even though you're doing similar work, there's lots of different business strategies of like how they view themselves in their categories. So now I work on our canned vegetable business. I work on our like top retailer business, but I'm doing more of a commercial role as like a senior manager. And so I've been able to kind of make some steps to work up. Now I have taken a lot of lateral moves, and not that I've moved up really fast in my career, but that doesn't mean that I can't use all these experiences to take to a higher level, to a higher leadership level now that I have them. So last thing I'll say, because I've been talking a lot, as I think about the ladder versus the lattice, it's all about your own personal journey on how you want to take your career. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And just because somebody took this one way doesn't mean you can take your career some other way if you think there's opportunities that you can learn from. So with that, that's kind of like my career path I've taken.
I mean, there's so many great little golden nuggets of information in there that somebody early on in their career can take. And there's a couple things that I want to point out because I talk about emotional intelligence a lot at the Independence Lab, and there's so many things I heard in there. So, self awareness, like what
Yeah.
you wanted for your own self, is so important. The
Yeah.
motivation that you had to learn all of that stuff that you could take into so many different parts of your career, your empathy skills for the people that are changing, and self-regulation when you find yourself in change and are having a little bit of a fear or a nervousness around things, being able to regulate yourself. There's so many elements of emotional intelligence that you just talked about, even without having
Yeah.
to say it out loud. So I guess my next question for you is just, how would you define emotional intelligence, and then how did you maybe use that as you're moving between roles and moving up within your career?
Yeah. So I wish I had a very like I did it this exact way and it was perfect and I like really was able to use all the things to navigate my career well. But I think, like you said, instinctively you just do some of the things, not realizing it until you kind of like look back and you're like, you know what? That really showed how I was able to navigate
Mhm.
that while it being a difficult time. So I want to like take more of the things I've done, but at the same time, I look back on my situations. I'm like, you know what? I actually did use some of those, skills. So for me, it's really about emotional intelligence. It's kind of the difference between what you put into the job to drive influence and impact and understanding not only you as yourself, but the people you're interacting with above the skills and the day to day, what is needed to be done for the actual job itself.
Mhm.
So you can kind of layer that on with, you could say, you can kind of even break them apart a little bit and say self-awareness versus being just aware of others and what their needs are. You can kind of break it apart. But I think for me, it's just having that piece that you layer on, not above the skills that you use to drive impact and influence in your career, navigate change, and drive growth within your career too. I mean, those are usually that when you can kind of be put into some uncomfortable situations or some new situations and you have to, or else you have to work with new people. you being able to utilize some of those skill sets is what makes the difference of a project that doesn't seem to go very far, gets stagnant, to a project that runs pretty well because of the way you can navigate and pull those people together. You can drive towards a common goal, and you can understand, especially if they're cross-functional groups, there are other people from other departments that they may not see things the way you see things because they have a different experience with it. You then can utilize those things to help you navigate that path together. And not only how you collaborate, you grow, you work with others, there is that piece of leading yourself too. So, what are your core values? What gives you passion? What do you want people to know you for? What are the things that you want people to hold you accountable for, that you want to be, that you want to show up consistently with? I mean, those are great exercises. You can do at any point of your career. You don't need to wait till you're like a VP to start thinking about those things, is like as you're managing people, because guess what? You have to manage yourself before you can manage others. Because if you can't manage yourself to stand up and be the most authentic version, badass leader yourself, how people are not going to put you in roles to then lead others. So you have to do it first. And those are things that honestly I would have done more when I was younger. Like I wish that would have like clicked for me a little bit more when I was younger, that it took actually a little bit longer for me to like look back and look at some people and be like, wow, what's different? They led themselves very well. They were able to influence others because of how they presented themselves in everyday situations. So with that, those are things that you can do right now to really set yourself apart and build that emotional intelligence on top of the skill sets you're learning as well too. There's little pieces you can do every day, even at the start of your career.
Really like what you said, that phrase, you have to be able to manage yourself before you can manage others. And it's not even necessarily that you're dying to go and manage a team. That's not the only direction, but to manage projects or changes within a company or make that impact. So it sounds like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like, just to like summarize what you were saying, is you have to show up and you have to do your job. You have to do the check marks, right, on your
Yep.
job description. But the emotional intelligence and the things that are going to move you forward within your career are kind of like all the other things. So you're going to show up and you're going to make the impact and handle yourself well, manage yourself well, communicate well, have that motivation. It's all of the other things. You got to do your job description, right? But that's, you can just show up, check those things off, and go home, and you're not necessarily going to move forward in your career. It's all of the other stuff that's going to move you forward and make you stand out in the crowd from, getting a promotion or leading a team, like you were saying.
Yeah. I 100% agree, because if you, as I mean, again, you'll get to understand the office politics, the way like people just they don't only hear what you're saying, but they perceive you and how you're saying it too. So you'll understand that the more and more that you're on, like talking to younger generation, the more and more you're in meetings, you're engaging with people, you pick up on those subtle cues of what can really drive some strong influence within there. It's not only the information you're putting up on the screen, but it's how you say it, how you're engaging with people, how you're selling it to them is a big piece of that. And, one of the things is like you can be very, very good at your job, the skill set wise, but that can also make you look like it's still really good to do, but it could make you be seen as an individual contributor. And that's what people kind of put you as, if like, if you're only very detailed in the skill set, you only focus on those things, they will start to say, wow, that person really likes X, Y, and Z. Let's make sure they get to do a lot more of X, Y, and Z. But if you are on the path of like, no, someday I want to be a leader, I want to be seen as a leader, the more you can start to embody that now and do it before you're even managing people, where you can even influence people on like a project or on a team meeting or something where you're not managing them, you're not technically their managers, but you're providing great perspective. You're speaking up, you're saying like how you feel about the situation. You're giving advice on how you think it should go and taking charge of it. The more they see you doing those things, the more they say, hey, not only does that person know how to do their job, they also know how to influence others to get things done, right?
Yep.
For the better good, right? To bring the big things together, to drive like, hey, they have a great plan around this. They really know what they're doing. There's somebody I want to like join in and help them achieve these things. Like the more you can do that and show up and drive action, have a voice in those meetings, get perspective. Even if people don't want to do exactly what you want to do, at least you're sharing those things
Mhm.
and they'll want to get more advice from you as they move forward when you see you consistently doing that.
Right.
So for me, I think that's just like a really big piece of like what you need to start doing to layer on. And part of that is, the connecting with people, taking time to get to know them. Even you build relationships, you got to build trust too. That's the other piece. I cannot tell you how important trust building is important in the workplace. Having those relationships, not to be like a very super personal, but just get to know people, get to know more about their areas, how they operate, to make sure they are seen and heard in a respectful way within the projects, within what you're doing. That's how you build trust and credibility. And that's how you can also drive leadership too. So building the relationships, taking action, having a point of view of things is how you start to see that before you actually become a people manager.
Wow. I'm so glad that you said that specific word trust because I think we talk about building relationships and networking and, going outside of just your job description or whatever the case may be. But building that trust is honestly what it comes down to. That's just so valuable is to think about it that way is how can I build trust so that they see me as more than just an entry level role. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to change directions just a little bit. And this might actually be something that you recommend, but you have recently been certified in 5 voices. So tell us what that is.
Yeah. So again, as I think about my career, and I've mapped it out a lot of different ways of like where can I see myself going? What makes me excited? Like I've done this a lot of different ways, and you can always change your career mapping at any point. Like there's no like, hey, this is the path. Hey, a new experience can make you have a different perspective on what you enjoy doing within your career. So never feel like there's one path to success. I feel like I can't stress that enough that people get so stuck on like
Mm-hmm.
one path,
That's true.
but you have your own unique experiences, your own different skill sets. There might be a different path for you. So for me, back when I was at Smucker's, I was part of a women's ERG, which is a resource group for different, can be minorities. It can be just different groups within the company. It doesn't have to be like minorities, but this was for a women's development group. And it was driving more leadership within women because women are not often in as many leadership roles as what men are.
True.
I think the statistic I think we even had at the companies was 50-50 split between men and women for the total company, but in leadership roles, it was more of like a 70-30 split. So part of our initiative was kind of to help people feel more open, feel more comfortable in the space, build trust within themselves to know that they can do it. And just saying confidence, it doesn't mean that not everybody's like not confident. That's why they're not leaders. There's just different blind spots you have to the work to what could be happening that you may not like know about, or you may have that imposter syndrome or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I started to do some of these leadership training courses, and we did this workshop, and I was like, wow. As I think about one of those experiences that made such an impact on not only me, but I felt others based on the feedback I got, I was like, this may be a path for me. I think there might be something here that I can do with more leadership coaching. Like it was so exciting that I had, again, talking about your influence and how you can drive your leadership in your own way. It doesn't have to just be a work project. It can be something you're just really passionate about. So we had this workshop. I mean, I had leaders from the company on there. I had individual contributors. I had managers. I had over 200 people on this call. Now talk about something that's not like, doesn't just fill your bucket, make you so excited to say that I did that, and I led that call and I pulled these people together. Like it's one of my favorite things that I did in my career. So with that, I've really enjoyed this place because I love authentic leadership within yourself, within others, and building that into other people. I know when if I looked at my map and I say, what are those things that I have enjoyed most about what I've done? And that is to grow and develop people. Like that is just one of my most favorite things that I've done out of my entire career. I just love collaborating with people. I love to build, just the best versions of everybody to come out and be their authentic self so you can build honestly a better tomorrow. It sounds very sappy, but honestly, guys, when you do more of this career building, this more purposeful building type of exercise, it's not, you get kind of used to doing it. So I was looking at some different programs that I could potentially latch onto, be part of me to help me launch this part of my business. And I actually had someone within the area who walked me through a leadership one-on-one coaching day where they used the giant platform, which was the 5 voices. I had never heard about it before. And I will tell you, if you're in marketing, you go in marketing, you take a lot of personality assessments.
Yeah,
You will take a lot of them.
it's true.
But this to me was like one of my favorite ones. It shows you, it's more, in my opinion, it is more about the individual, the leader, the person helping discover themselves. It's helping build what we've talked about, the emotional intelligence. It is more about discovering your own voice, which is one of your most powerful things you have in business to influence yourself with others and how you want to present yourself. So it gives you a natural voice order. There's 5 different like voices, which it's very easy stuff. It's pioneer, creative, like collaborator. It's not hard things to remember, which some of these other personality tests, like they will give you certain things. So you're like, oh, this is a little like strength finders. It can be a little hard to remember or to share with other people too. So it gives you very common language to use. But I will tell you, after taking some of those assessments, I'm like, this is spot on. Like this describes me on how I show up. And the fun part about it is just because you have a natural voice order, which is usually like 1 or 2, that doesn't mean you can't do all 5. It just says, this is how you naturally show up. But these could be some of your blind spots. These could be some of the things that kind of trigger you. These could be, and it shows you how to kind of like develop some of those soft skills within yourself to know your strengths, your blind spots, how you present yourself in front of other people. And it gives you a really nice, strong platform to even start to like communicate about yourself to others. Like, how hard is it to talk about yourself to other people? It's hard. You don't want to be like, I'm really great at this. Especially being women, we don't want to say those type of things. It makes us want to cringe.
Agreed.
So for me, I love talking about this stuff because I love talking about the way I love to collaborate. Like I'm a connector, creative, pioneer. So that's crazy. I have 3, but it's all about me thinking about the future. When I start to say things of like, here's how I naturally show up, here's the things I love to do, this tool helps me be able to have that background to say those things well. So that's why I love it as kind of like a nice foundational tool to help you not only develop an individual leader and how you want to lead yourself, lead other people, but also teams and how they work together too. Once you see that, hey, you're more of a guardian who's much more like present day, loves to be in the numbers, do all those things. I'm much more of a creative. We can kind of see how like we are a little bit different, but every voice is equal. There's no voice that's better than the others. You know how sometimes you can take some of these tests and you're like, oh, I feel like mine's not as good as this other one. That's not true. Like there's no such thing. Everybody has their own unique combination, their own backgrounds and stuff. So it's it's a lot of like you can take the assessment, but there's a lot you can do with it too, and how you can apply it as well. So I recently just got certified in that, and I'm looking to do either team exercises, one-on-one coaching. There's just so many different ways to take this. So I'm planning to launch the business to kind of support those types of activities.
Fantastic. Okay, so listeners have not yet had a chance to identify as one of these 5 voices, but just knowing what you know so far, what would you recommend for them to make an impact in a new role, maybe 90 days in, or show up as a leader? Like how can they use this information to help them just show up in a really positive way in their first role out of school?
Yeah, you don't have to wait like 5, 10 years down the road to kind of do it. You can just see where you're at today and how do you naturally show up well? What are the strengths, the weaknesses, just the first 90 days of like how you show up within your current role. So I think that's always a great thing to do at any point in your career. And you can always look at it again, always reassess it. Like, is this still the path? Like, again, I've changed my path a couple of times where I've seen myself go different places. So you can always like take a look at it again and reassess it based on like where you see yourself today. So I think that, kind of having a good understanding of you can really help. But again, the first days, I mean, it goes back to those things I mentioned around networking, getting to know the people of the company, getting to know the company itself, getting to know just how things work. and learning the business. I mean, getting the foundations right in the first 90 days is so crucial. I mean, especially as you go into other jobs later on, people love to just give you work right off the bat. I will not. I mean, it's amazing. You're like, I just want a couple. I just want time to learn the business, and that is the precious time you get at the beginning, just to take the time to know those things, so that you have that and you can navigate all the work that starts to come to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's fair to add you having good boundaries too, being okay to say, hey, this is important right now. This is what I need to be focusing on right now, and being okay to say that to other people when they start to ask for your help is okay. Actually, that shows more about how confident you are and where you are focusing your time and your energy to the right things that drive the actual business, and not just, hey, this person's asking for help over here. I feel bad if I don't help them. Well, maybe you're not even the best suited person to help them anyways. So again, I think that's that precious time that it's okay to be like, I need to learn the business and this is what I need to focus on right now.
Yeah. And I like going back to the five voices, or some sort of assessment. Something I always talk about in interviews is being able to tell your stories, not just reading your resume, not just responding, black and white to questions that they ask you during the interview, but taking the time beforehand to write down your stories, your experience, and share that during interviews, because I think stories are much more memorable than just you know,
Yeah.
a direct answer to the question. But if you've taken one of these assessments and you can understand how to talk about yourself, I think that's only going to strengthen those stories and give you more fodder for
Yeah.
those stories. So I love that. And you, like you said, you don't have to wait until you are a leader to do that, but you can talk about the way that you approach challenges, probably using
Yeah.
that information. So I love that piece of advice. So I think having some sort of tangible thing is always helpful. So, what's like one small step that somebody who maybe just recently graduated college can take, like right now
Mhm.
or this week, to move forward?
Yeah. I think being a college grad, I mean, just again, getting really in tune with what you're wanting to do, really taking time to say, like, what are the things that I'm excited about doing? What are the things that I really want to go after, and really prioritizing, kind of knowing more about those companies, more about the people that, I mean, LinkedIn today, you can learn so many things to be well prepared to figure out what are the right types of things that I even want to interview in based on my experience. So I think kind of knowing some of those backgrounds and just taking the time to like research it, look it up, and not just try to jump into the first thing. I will say I jumped into Smuckers, but I'm glad I did. Like, it worked out for me. But I think in many cases, people probably jump into things because they're so afraid, like, oh, if I don't take a little, if I need to find a job right away, I can't take any time to kind of take that self-discovery step. That is really crucial to me, that I think it's okay to take some time to think about what you really want, because you're just going to show up better once you actually do those things versus going, oh, shoot, I took an opportunity that I don't actually like, but I was afraid to like not take a job, and I'm probably not going to show up on. I don't really like this job, or I'm not good at it, just different things. So it doesn't hurt to take a little extra time. But again, you need experience. So again, take the opportunity for what it is and see what you can learn out of it. And again, I think it's just building that story, even like what you said, like really prepping well for those interviews to take experience that you do have. Like, even if it's something that obviously is not in that job today, because you are probably an entry level, you may have some internships, or you may have something that can kind of apply, but you may not have every single skill, or like every single thing that they have on the job description. You may not have experience doing all those things, but it's like you said, how can you frame up your experiences really well to show how you've overcome challenges, you've problem solved, you have figured out how to navigate something. Navigating change is like the biggest thing, or how you've influenced others, how have you worked well as others, how have you worked well on a team. You're navigating change, you're dealing with a tough situation with the other coworker, a classmate, or something. How did you navigate that? Like, any of those, again, goes back to showing that emotional intelligence. Like, how did you navigate that well? How did you do those things well beyond just exactly what the job was, where like, oh, I managed spreadsheets and I did blah, 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 blah. You can talk about those other qualities that make you you. The one thing I also kind of put together is even one of those little, hey, what's a 5-second elevator speech thing, is talking about an ABC. Like what's authentically makes you you? What really is the characteristics? What was really behind you and makes you the type of leader you want to follow? What's something bold? You don't have to be passionate just about work. People actually like to see that you are passionate about other things outside of work. It shows that you're an individual that has, you have the ability to take on other things. You are a multidimensional person. You could have more skill sets doing those hobbies too. Again, it just shows you as more of a personable person. And see what makes you credible. What can you kind of relate back to that you did yourself that is something that you would want to tell people about? Like, hey, I'm really proud of this thing that I accomplished. It shows how like you can make decisions, you can make actions that drive results. So it's kind of a fun way to think about it. It's pretty easy to remember what's authentically makes you you, what's bold, what are you passionate about, what are things in or outside of work, and see what makes you credible. How can people build trust with you? Building credibility is building trust with people. So again, before you have that relationship, that is one of the first ways you can kind of build some trust with them.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing information. And it's so hard to go into an interview and know how to frame these things. So giving it that ABC framework is so helpful.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And then there's something
Yep.
that you did say that's like you may not have 100% of the check marks on a job description, right, that you're applying for. And there's something that I do want to point out is that women tend to wait until they have 100% of those
Yep.
checklist items before they will apply for a job.
Yeah.
But according to Harvard Business Review, men will do it if they meet like 60%. So I want to encourage anybody that's listening to actually go ahead and apply for those. If you meet 60 or 70%, go ahead and apply if it's a job that you want, because you can grow into that skill set pretty easily. And if you show up with Kirby's ABC framework, you're going to show up in that interview as somebody that they can't wait to hire. So I love that so much. Okay, Kirby,
Yeah.
last question. If you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice as a new graduate, what would it be?
One piece of advice. I think I would tell myself, again, I think this is a little bit personal to me. I would tell myself to slow down, take a breath, focus on where you are. Be okay with the present. Be okay with what you're doing today. Again, because I like to think about the future. That's what I said. I love to be like, what can be, what's the future? And then, but I did get that a little bit in my personal life where I was like, I need, again, what you said, showing up in your 20s, like I need to have this checklist of things that I've done. I wish I would have just honestly been more present, been more just in the moment and learning and growing from where I was at there versus worrying about what was happening next. Am I ready for my next step? Instead of just saying, hey, I may learn my next step by just being more present. And those are things, honestly, as an adult, almost 40, I'm still teaching myself today. So again, that's a little personal to me. I know I've given a lot of other tips throughout the rest of this thing, but man, I can't tell you enough. The ability to be more present just even shows so much within people that you're interacting with day to day and how they even want to be more around you too, because you're engaging, you're social, you're doing the things in the moment versus like, oh, they're worrying about what's happening over here. So that's me. I think being more present. It's simple. It's nothing big, but it's just again taking the time to just realize the opportunities that are around you today.
Perfect. Well, if somebody wants to learn more about you or Five Voices, where can they reach out? Is LinkedIn the best place?
Yeah, for right now it's going to be LinkedIn. I'm looking to actually make a website for my leadership coaching here soon, but LinkedIn is the best place to find me today. And I'm very responsive. If anybody has any questions, I will answer anything. I love sharing about my experience, whatever I can do to help others. That just fills my cup.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you for all of this very valuable advice, and I appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you.